Hey friends, this is Jim at From Scratch Farmstead, and so you're getting baby chicks really soon, but you don't have a brooder lined up for them yet. And so you're gonna need something that's both quick and low cost, right? So that's exactly the situation that we're in right now. We're getting baby chicks in just a couple days with no brooder option lined up. And so come join me in the barn. I'm gonna show you a really quick and low cost brooder option. Alright, so here we are inside the barn. I'm just going to walk on over and give you a quick tour of our current setup to start. But this is our chicken coop that we built in the barn for our laying hens. So it's 8 foot by 16 foot. You can see a couple chickens are in here currently, but most of them are out free ranging. And so we have anywhere from 30 to 50 chickens in here at any time. And then let me show you our brooder setup. So this is our current brooder. We actually built this last year, and it was a really good project, really low cost. We built it out of an old storage container or shipping crate that we found on Facebook Marketplace really cheap, and then we just took some extra scrap wood that we had, basically some hardware cloth, and put this together. I'll pop it open here for you so you can see what we have going on. But we have about 40, a little over 40 Freedom Ranger chicks in here right now. These are actually going to be our meat chickens that we're raising. And so these are about 2 weeks old. And we really like raising Freedom Rangers for meat chickens. And so that's our current brooder. That's taken up by them. And then we are getting some more laying hens, about 30 more laying hen chicks in just a couple days here, and so that's why we need a new brooder. So let me close this up and I'll show you kind of what we have planned for the brooder for those laying hens. So right over here is a galvanized stock tank or water trough, whatever you want to call it. So we had this one kind of, it's mostly a backup. You can see we have a couple over here. We use those for our cows when we graze them on pasture in the summertime. But this one's sort of our backup, especially in the winter time. And we don't really use it for much. And I thought this would make the perfect brooder for our new baby chicks. And so we got this one used on Facebook Marketplace as well. I think it was like $40 or $50. This is a 100-gallon stock tank. And so they come in all different sizes. Some of the reasons that I really love the idea of using these stock tanks as a brooder is one, like I mentioned, you could get them pretty cheaply. If you look around and wait for the right one to come up used especially, you could find them for at least half the cost of what you're going to spend new. One of the things that I've noticed is that, so a lot of, if you look in more like urban areas, a lot of people buy these things and use them for parties as like a drink cooler or whatever, and they'll fill it with drinks, use it like once or twice for a party, and then have no idea what to do with it, and so they sell it for a really low cost. I just saw one that was like, it was like a 200+ gallon tank for like $100, which is, you know, way less than half what you're gonna spend for one of these things new, and you could fit a lot of chicks in there. But for the 30 chicks we're getting, this 100-gallon one should be plenty big. It's about 2 foot wide by like 3 to 4 feet long. And so, you know, they're spacious inside. They're really sturdy and solid, which is going to make them really good with predators and keeping predators out. So basically we're just going to build a top cover for it today that's going to go on the top, and then you could just kind of fit it up as a brooder on the inside. They're also, some of them have lower walls, like these ones over here are kind of lower, but this one has really high walls, and so, you know, your baby chicks aren't going to be flying on out of there like they might in kind of a lower setup. So it's gonna keep them in if you have the cover off and you're in there doing work. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to build just a really simple cover to go on top, and then we're going to have this pretty well up and running for our baby chicks coming soon. So let's go get building. So just to give you an idea, we're going to build a top cover for your stock tank that'll fit similar to a shoebox cover. So you'll use horizontally laid 2x4s around the perimeter, with a layer of hardware cloth in between that, and then you'll use 2x2s to make somewhat of an L-shaped bracket below that. Now you could just make a flat cover for your stock tank as well, but I like having that rim around there to make sure it stays in place. And if you're looking to make a lighter cover, you can use 1x material instead of 2x. I just had some spare 2x on hand, so that's what I'm using. Now I'm kind of fiddling around with the measurements here a little bit, but in the end I discovered that if you take the measurement of the stock tank from rim to rim on the outside and add about 4 inches, you get the right measurement for your top cover. That'll give you enough room for that 2x2 rim along the outside with a little bit of wiggle room to spare. So now I'm just going to measure out those top cover pieces and cut those to size with a circular saw. Alright, once you have those pieces cut, you can go ahead and line everything up and start screwing your corners together. I did go ahead and grab some quick clamps and clamp the corners down just to make things easier while screwing the corners together. And pretty much any time I was putting in a screw for this project, I did drill just a small pilot hole first, just to avoid splitting the wood with the screw. So I'm using 3-inch construction screws here, and I went through and did one screw on the outside first and then came back through and did another screw on the inside at each corner, so 2 screws per corner to hold it together. Alright, and after all the 2x4s were put together, I just held that up on top of the stock tank to make sure everything was fitting how I expected it to, which it was. So next I sort of jumped the gun a bit here and I started cutting and installing the 2x2 rims along the bottom side of the cover, which you can certainly do, but you'll see I got the 2 pieces on the end put in, but then I realized it would be a lot easier to install the hardware cloth while the cover is flat. So then I changed gears and started installing the hardware cloth next. So I'm just using pretty standard 1/2-inch hardware cloth that's 2 feet wide, so it fit perfectly on this cover. You'll want your hardware cloth to lap onto the wood about 1 to 2 inches. And I do have here an air compressor and a brad nailer that I'm using, so I'm fastening down the hardware cloth with 1-inch staples, which makes it really secure. If you don't have any sort of nail gun or staple gun available, that's fine. You can just use any manual stapler, should work fine for this. So you can see I just started by fastening down one side of the hardware cloth and then just kind of pulled it tight and kept going down to the other end of the top cover. And I'm installing staples about every 6 inches, so it's really tight and secure. Once I got down to the end there, I took wire cutters and cut the hardware cloth to the length I needed. You'll see I actually pulled off that end 2x2 rim piece, stapled the rest of the hardware cloth down, and then put that 2x2 back on. Next we're just going to measure and cut those remaining 2x2 rim pieces. So you can see those fit snug, so I used a hammer just to tap those into place, and then I installed them the same way. Drilled pilot holes first and then put some 3-inch screws on each side. So that basically finishes off the top cover, and as you can see it fits nicely on top of the stock tank here. So this next part of the project is for if you are using a heat lamp in your brooder. I wanted to come up with some sort of design so your heat lamp stays in place when you remove the top cover, and so we're going to build a movable bar that your heat lamp hangs from. So to start, I just measured the inside rim dimension of the stock tank, subtracted a 1/2 inch, and cut a 2x4 to that length. Then next I found the center of that bar and drilled a 1.5 inch hole with a spade bit. And then I also measured about 6 inches out from that hole and drilled 2 more holes on either side of it. And these are the holes that the plug and cord of your heat lamp is going to go through and ultimately hang from. And so next I needed to find some way to hang that bar level with the top of the stock tank and fit under the top cover. So I figured some sort of metal bracket would work well for this. So I just had this roll of metal flashing lying around that I cut some pieces roughly the width of the 2x4 and bent those to kind of make an L bracket that would hang on the top of the stock tank. You can use really any sheet metal for this that you have lying around, as long as you can bend it to the right shape that you need and it's heavy duty enough to support the weight of the heat lamp. You can also find metal straps at hardware stores that would probably also work for this. But you can see I just kind of bent those metal pieces to make an L-shaped hanger for each side of the bar, and then I just kind of lined up those hanger pieces at the end of the bar as best I could, and then fastened it in with 4 or 5 sheet metal screws just to hold it in place. And here's what the finished heat lamp bar looked like, and as you can see, it fit really nicely on the top rim of the stock tank, and you can easily slide it back and forth to position your heat lamp wherever you need it in the brooder. So we're pretty much done building everything, so I'm going to bring the stock tank back into the barn, level it out a little bit, make sure it's sitting where I want it. Then we'll work on getting the heat lamp set up on the bar. So you can see here I fed the plug and the cord of the heat lamp through the center hole. And then I grabbed a zip tie and tied that around the cord and the center hole there. That worked really well to hold that heat lamp in place. Alright, so we're all ready to get set up here for our baby chicks to come. So I'm getting some bedding in there and then putting in the water and some food and getting the heat lamp and cover back on. And if you're wondering, that is a brand new heat lamp. Our livestock guardian dog Stella chewed through our other one that we had. So my dad swung over to the hardware store the other day and picked us up a brand new one. So thanks, Dad. Alright, so here we are a couple days later, got the whole family in here getting them baby chicks in their new home. So we were supposed to pick up 30 chicks from our local feed store that day, but we found out the day of that our order got back ordered, so we managed to pick up 10 chicks. So we got 10 in the brooder now, and in a couple weeks we'll get 20 more, and we'll have to figure out yet another brooder situation. So that's farm life for you. Expectations are your enemy, flexibility is your friend. So we are all wrapped up here now with our stock tank brooder project. It really came together nicely. I'm loving how this top cover is fitting on. It's really easy just to pull it off, get access to the chicks and give them food and water and bedding and anything they need. And then this center bar that slides back and forth that the heat lamp hangs off of. It's really nice to have that and be able to position that heat lamp wherever you need to, and for it to not get in the way when you are pulling that top cover off. So this was a really quick and simple brooder project. We're all set up, ready to go for our chicks, but I'd love to hear from you. What option did you go with for a brooder and how's it going? So thanks for stopping by the farmstead today, and we'll see you next time.